You can get the same odds of Blackburn Rovers getting relegated as Simon Cowell becoming Prime Minister, David Beckham becoming James Bond, and the Loch Ness Monster to be found. So why am I so concerned? We'll talk about it next. That's right, folks, back once again with another match preview, this time looking forward to Blackburn Rovers match up against Derby County this midweek, and we'll get to that in just 1 second. If you're new to the channel, smash your subscribe button, get you bang up to date with all things Blackburn Rovers related, Championship related, full football related. We're going to all hear under one roof. And for all those budding gamblers out there, that's 500 to 1 odds at the moment. But anyway, let's talk about it, the match in a bit more detail. So the match does take place this Tuesday, which is the 9th of April at Ewood Park, and Derby County still managed by Frank Lampard. Doing a pretty good job for them at the moment, keeping them in the mix in the old playoffs. Last season they did finish 6th, but under different management. The key man for me this Tuesday will be Harvey Wilson. That's right, the loney, what's he, from Liverpool? Done a wonder job, scoring goals, creating assists, been a whole host of bother for all kinds of teams. The two sides have met a lot of times. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the last time that these two sides did meet at Ewood Park, it was a 1-0 win for Rovers, 28th of Feb 2017. And the two sides have met 132 times in all competitions. 55 wins for Rovers, 41 for Derby, and 36 draws, including the one earlier in the season. Now, so a quick look at the starting 11s. Now, before that, quick look at the injury tables. Bradley Dack and Charlie Mulgrew in there. Not too sure when they'll be back, but both Gladwin and Samuel still ruled out for the rest of the season. Did not make an appearance, and we've got no suspensions on the books. So this will be my curious starting 11. I've actually gone for Dak, but we'll talk about that in a minute. David Ryan between the sticks, Bell, Rodwell, Lenihan, and Nyambe. Now I've gone for a 4-1-1 formation, maybe mixing that up a little bit. Conway on the left, Rothwell on the right, Evans, Travis, Dak in the middle, and Graham up top. Now if Dak is ruled out, then that creates a whole different kind of worms. Maybe we'll put Rothwell in there, Conway on the right, and then Armstrong on the left. That's probably, or push 2 up top. Give Brereton a run out. Quick look at the stats now for Rovers. Dak still tops pops with 15 goals to his name. Graham is hot on his heels though with 14, so he could close in on him, if not overtake him, should he have a bit of fortune on Tuesday. 14 goals to him. Mulgrew has 10. Armstrong has 8. As for the discipline, Bennett and Smallwood and Lenihan joins them with 8 yellows on the cards. 8 yellow cards to their names, should I say. Evans has 7. As for the Reds, Williams got 2. Smallwood has 1. The last 5 results for Rovers is not good reading, I'm afraid. Last time out, obviously, we lost to Stoke at Ewood 1-0 in a game that it was a boring one, wasn't it, folks? 1-0 loss, and that was on the 6th of April. Before that, we took on Villa Park, 2-1 loss. Before that, it was a Sheffield Wednesday defeat, 4-2. We did manage to beat Wigan. Good. 3-0 winners on Tuesday. That was the last time we played a game on Tuesday. So could we make it back-to-back wins on a Tuesday? Perhaps. 3-0 winners. And all the way back on the 9th of March, we did lose to Preston, also at Ewood Park. The next 5 fixtures, though, for Rovers look like this. Obviously, Derby next. Then it is Forest on the weekend. Then over the Easter period, it's QPR at Loftus Road. Then it is Rovers up against Bolton at the old Ewood Park. A bit of a Northwest crunch clash, that one. And Norwich City also been put onto the Sky TV calendar, and that is on, so that kickoff time will change. Anyway, let's take a look at Derby's injury hit list. Quite a few names on there. Marcus Olsen is out. I'm not too sure how he's going to be. Martin Waghorn, Scott Malone both picked up a bit of a niggles in the last match. Andy King, Craig Forsyth, and Curtis Davis all out for the season. So will Waghorn make it? I think so. I've actually gone with him in this starting level with Bruce in goal, Malone, Keogh, Tamore. At the right back would be Jaden Bogle, no picture on Foothead, hence the old black square thing there. Mounts, Johnson, Holmes in midfield, Tom Lawrence, Waghorn, and Wilson as a deadly trio up top. So according to the old injury list, Malone might not make it and Waghorn might not make it, so we might see a bit of a rehash there. Quick look at the stats there for Derby. Wilson's got 14 goals, Waghorn's got 11, Jack Marriott's got 10, Mason Mount's got 7. As for discipline, Wilson's got 10 yellows, Johnson's got 8, Bryson's got 7, and Holmes has got 7. As for the Reds, Lawrence and Bogle are the dubious fellas with 1 red card to their name. Quick look now at the next 5, or the last 5 results for Derby. Last time out they did take on Brentford. It was a 3-3 draw over at Griffin Park, I think that's what they call this place. Before that, the last home match was a 6-1 thrashing of Rotherham back on the 30th of March. Before that, it was a 0-0 draw against Stoke. All the way back on the 9th of March, it was, oh my goodness, how many home games did they play in a row? They They took on Sheffield Wednesday, drew 1-1. And all the way back, Tuesday the 5th of March, they lost. They won, 2-1 win over Wigan. Now, the next 5 fixtures for Stoke look like this. Obviously, Rovers next. Then they take on Bolton on Saturday before heading over to St Andrews to take on Birmingham City on the 19th of April. They'll take on QPR, the team that we take on Good Friday on the 22nd of April at Pride Park, and then they'll wrap it up against Bristol City. Crunch clash for them at the top of the table, 27th of April. Now let's take a look at the old form book for you. It's not good reading, folks. We are doomed. We look doomed anyway. We are 21st in the old form table, but not as bad as Middlesbrough. They've come out of nowhere. 6 defeats on the spin. Surely if they get another one against Bolton, Pulis will be gone. Let's take a look at the home form for the last 6 games. Looking at 18th spot, Blackburn Rovers there, 2 wins, 4 defeats at the last 6 matches. That's not good form when Ewood was a fortress earlier in the season. As for the away form, Derby County sit 19th, so their away form is not great, to be honest with you. At the last 6 games, they've not won one, so that's good. 3 defeats and 3 draws, so that's good reading for Rovers. Now, here's a quick look at the last few games at home for Rovers. Now, obviously, we talked about losing to Stoke, beating Wigan, and losing to Preston early. Before that, we did lose to Middlesbrough and we did lose to Bristol City, but we did beat Hull all the way back at the end of January. So 2 wins out of 6 is not great form. As for Derby's last 6 away games, obviously not pretty reading towards the bottom end of the away form table, but they've been up against it. 3-3 draw against Brentford, 4-0 spanking by Villa. They did lose to Notts Forest. They did lose to Brighton in the FA Cup. They also drew with Ipswich away from home, and they drew with Preston as well. Now, the last 5 or 6 games between the two sides in all competition have looked like this. Obviously, last time out at Pride Park, Derby were all over, so we were lucky to get out of that with anything. It was a 0-0 draw, but the last time these two sides did meet was a 1-0 win for Rovers at Ewood Park. In fact, you're going to have to go all the way back to 24th of Feb for the last time Derby picked up a victory, and that was a 1-0 win for them. How about the last few fixtures or for Blackburn against Derby at Ewood Park? You have to go all the way back to 2014 for Derby's last victory. They've only won 1 out of 6 the previous times at Ewood Park. So yeah, it's possible for Rovers, despite Derby being well above them, well placed above them in the table. We could still hopefully use that mentality to kind of get something together. And a quick look at what's going on this midweek as well. Other big games: Sheffield Wednesday taking on Forest, Swansea against Stoke, Bolton against Middlesbrough, big one there. Brentford against Ipswich, Birmingham against Sheffield United, Hull against Wigan, Norwich against Reading, Millwall QPR towards the foot of the table. That's pretty juicy. Bristol against West Brom, and Preston against Leeds. And all eyes though really will be on Blackburn up against Derby to see who comes out on top that one. Quick look at the league table for you folks. Norwich still top of the pops quite convincingly now. Sheffield United are in second, so if the season ended now, those two would be going up. Leeds, West Brom, Villa and Bristol City in the playoffs, folks, as it stands, but that could all get mixed and matched over the next few days. As for the bottom, Ipswich, Bolton and Rotherham are in the drop zone. Rotherham did win last time out, did they? I can't remember. I think they did win to get themselves a bit of hope. A win for them, though, could see them leapfrog quite a few times and push maybe Wigan, Millwall or Reading into the drop zone. As for Rovers, we sit in 16th spot. Derby are in 7th. Quick look at the goal stats for you. The top goal scorers, top assist makers. Timu Puki is the man on fire at the moment, 26 goals. Then you have a two-way tie. Tammy Abraham, Billy Sharp, both have 23 goals to the name. Then you have Che Adams, Maupay, Bowen, Rodriguez, Gale Grab and McBurney, all hot on the heels. Again, if Bradley Dack were to get a goal, he could feature in the top 10 for goals this season, so we'll have to wait and see. As for the assist kings, Benrahma is the main man with 12 assists to his name. Then it's Krasicki, Buenda, Jolly or Lolly and Hernandez from Leeds. To top of the top 5 assist makers, the chance creators of the championship. And now a little bit what I have to say about the match. Now what you really want to hear is what the opposition fans have to say, and I'm joined by Chris Parsons from the old Steve Bloomer's Washing podcast, and Luna is knocking about, so she might make a few bits of noises and groans and stuff, so please bear that in mind. But anyway, for my small corner of the YouTube audience, Chris, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, about the podcast, and why on earth you support Derby?
Well, there's a question. So yeah, we started the podcast a couple of years ago. Myself and 2 friends who followed the ups and downs of Derby County for as long as we can remember. It's called Steve Bloomer's Washing, which I get asked about a lot because It's named after Derby County's all-time leading goal scorer, who's Steve Bloomer, and they have an anthem that Derby pump out at home games called Steve Bloomer's Watching at Pride Park. So it's a silly play on words on that, really. And yeah, you can find the podcast. It comes out every 2 weeks on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud.
Okay, there you go. And I'm going to whack a link in the old description just in case they have some difficulty finding it. Anyway, so let's get cracking. Obviously, last time out, it was more, I think, more focused about the game itself. But this is kind of more of a mid-season overview, or sort of back end of the season overview as we're wrapping up the old championship season. So we're going to try and get your opinions on who's stood out for Derby, who's kind of not been stepping up to the plate a little bit. But first and foremost, who has been your standout for Derby County this season?
I think there's a couple of players really, and the slightly not ideal situation is that neither of them actually really belong to Derby County. So the two standouts really have been Harry Wilson, with his 14 goals in all competitions, the winger on loan from Liverpool this season, the Welsh Wizard, as we've started calling him. He's been fantastic. He actually went through a bit of a tricky spell after Christmas. Hadn't really scored since January, but then got a great brace at the weekend away at Brentford in that crazy 3-3 draw in Derby's most recent game.
Mm-hmm.
And also Fikayo Tomori at the back as well, the young English defender on loan from Chelsea. Had a bit of a ropey start alongside Richard Keogh. Struggled in a number of games. Seems to struggle a bit in defending crosses and in the air, but he's really come on in recent games, in recent weeks and months. Started to bring the ball out better, start to read the game better as well. He's incredibly fast. I've never seen a player cover the ground quicker than Tomori as well, and he's really captured the hearts of a lot of Derby fans. So yeah, those are the two players I'd single out. They're both young, they're both British, and they're both extremely talented. So it's a shame that neither will be here next season.
Well, you never know. You never know. They might, obviously, with Lampard's connections, I'm sure Tomori could be back again. However, depending if you get up or not, because you're still in the mix of the old playoffs. Okay, what about on the opposite end of the spectrum? Who's been an absolute dud for you this season?
I think the end of the day, Derby are on the cusp of the playoffs. And that is a squad effort. There's been a lot of contributions. I think of the players that Lampard brought in, and there were quite a few, I think there's 9 or 10 signings in the summer. One of those players was Florian Josefzoon, the winger from Brentford, who a classic signing from Brentford, really. One of those players that they just unearthed from nowhere, turned into a really solid championship player. We paid a couple of million for him in the summer. And I think he had a lot of promise. Scored a couple of early goals towards the start of the season, but hasn't really kicked on since then, really. Has struggled in recent games. He started in the disastrous 4-0 defeat away at Villa, where Derby were 4-0 down at half-time. And I think he played the full 90, but has only really played 10 minutes since then. So I think he's basically out of Lampard's plans, really, off the back of that. That's the final straw. So he hasn't really performed particularly well, or as well as a lot of Derby fans would like. So you hate to really single people out, but I think of all the signings, he's probably the one who hasn't quite delivered as much as we would hope.
Okay. What about through the academy? Obviously, you got a very hot prospect at right back, Jayden Bogle. Anyone else coming through the ranks that we should be, or Derby fans should be getting excited about?
Yeah, a couple of names. So along with Jayden Bogle, who has had a meteoric rise in the first team, only 18, has played almost 40 games this season and scored his first goal on the weekend. There's Jaden Mitchell-Lawson as well, a young attacker who has been doing great things for the under-18s and under-23s, who made his first team debut a couple of weeks ago. Young Max Bird as well, who's a sort of a all-action midfielder who has impressed with the academy side as well. He has played a handful of games for the first team this season as well. And one to look out for next season is I think it's Lewis. His first name's Lewis Sibley, who has been who's a real hot prospect, is really highly regarded by Jody Morris and Darren Wassell, the academy coach at Derby. Mm-hmm. And you can expect to see him in and around the first team next season.
Cool. Yeah. So the future is bright. I think that's what your your owner or chairman, when I think it was, I don't know which manager it was, but they kind of restricted. They didn't want Derby to get promoted too quickly. But maybe because they're trying to instill a long-term plan, with all these hot prospects coming through. So I think the future is definitely bright for Derby, and maybe under Lampard it will happen. Maybe this season, maybe next season. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Okay, what about obviously you mentioned it a little bit. Lampard has been busy in the start, throughout the season, transfer-wise, bringing in a fair few bodies. Who's been his best signing? Maybe perhaps his best permanent signing.
Best permanent signing, probably one or two. You're looking at either Jack Marriott or Martin Waghorn, I'd say. Marriott came after banging him in for Peterborough last season, if you remember, in League One. Got close to 30 goals last season for them. Came in for a decent amount of money and really had to wait for his chance. Didn't really get a game until September, October. But then went on a great run and hit double figures quite quickly for the season. Scored away at Chelsea in the Cup, scored away at Man United, got his first goal at Old Trafford. A real sort of poacher, fox in a box sort of a striker. It's gone a bit off the boil recently, and he found himself out the 18 at the weekend, so he's done okay. And Martin Waghorn as well, after a slow start, is now also in double figures. Really solid player at championship level. Has done great things at Ipswich in the past, and Rangers north of the border. So those two between them have got close to 25 in all competitions, which isn't a massive amount of goals, but they've scored a lot of important goals for Derby. Kept us on the cusp of the playoffs, and they really helped in the two cup runs that we've had as well this season.
Yeah, well, they're both. I think I spoke to a lot of Championship fans over the season, and everyone's screaming out for a goal scorer, and you guys seem to have two good ones. Now, you touched on best player and most promising coming through the ranks. What about, who is your best player? Might not necessarily be your favourite player. Who do you look forward to seeing week in, week out on your team sheet?
Well, there's the one player that Derby fans are really crying out for a couple of weeks ago was Mason Mount, who was the midfielder on loan from Chelsea, in Lampard's image, actually, like a real box-to-box, technically gifted midfielder who often arrives late to score goals. Basically we had that terrible run in February, which Derby do quite often, but part of that was down this season to having Mount missing. We only picked up 10 points in the 9 games that he missed. And then, lo and behold, as soon as he came back, we smashed Rotherham 6-1 at home a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And he was pretty influential in the 3-3 at Brentford. He's really good to watch. Got 2 good feet, very good technically, really, really good at finding pockets of space in dangerous areas, and working well in sort of tight spaces surrounded by defenders. So, yeah, he's the one who really gets the fans off their seats. He's the one who creates space for other players. A lot of fans have said that Wilson should now improve again now that Mount is playing alongside him to free up some of the space and make it, create those little pockets between lines that Derby can exploit. So he's the one that Derby fans look for as the first name on the team sheet towards the end of the season.
Okay, what about who's the man that we don't want to mess with? Who's going to likely stick in a late elbow, flying crunch tackle? So who would you consider the tough nut? Well, I think I know who the tough nut is, but maybe my perception is wrong. Who's the guy where the Rovers players should be keeping an eye out for?
The guy you're looking at for this question is Bradley Johnson.
Oh.
I'm interested to know what your answer is going to be if it wasn't Bradley Johnson. But he is in the last year of his contract, so he might not be at Derby for much longer. But he was a big money signing from Norwich a few years ago. He's been in and out of the team, really. Had a bit of an up and down spell with Derby, but he puts himself out. He actually got a 4-game ban earlier in the season for biting Joe Allen when we played Stoke. He certainly, whenever there's a coming together between players, he's always first to stick up for his teammates, always first to go in for a tackle, never a shirk to 50-50. As you know, he's willing to literally put plenty of bite into Derby's midfield, so he's the one that you don't want to mess with on Tuesday.
Okay, what about who gets too many plaudits by fans, media, that you think it's kind of it takes away some of the goodness from the other players? Someone that's a little bit overrated.
I wouldn't go as far to say that he's overrated, but Tom Hiddleston, it has a lot of really great qualities for Derby. Like, no one can pick a pass like him, and his first touch at times is extremely smooth and velvety, But at the same time, there are clear limitations to his game. I mean, he's often described as being a footballer, not a runner, because he's not the quickest over the ground. He's not the strongest in the tackle, and he can get dispossessed quite easily. So although he's got a lot of qualities on the ball, it can be a bit of a passenger when there's a midfield battle there to be won. Having said that, I find it quite hard to say a bad word against him because he's a local lad. Mm-hmm. He's played for Derby in 2 different spells now, and he's a bit of a fan's favourite. But you're looking at someone that maybe the fans forgive their flaws, then I guess the person you're looking at is probably Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, that's a good coverage of and without any hurting anyone's feelings. So it was good. Well, nicely played. How about who doesn't get a lot of players? Who does a lot of the donkey work, a lot of the grinding, might not score the goals or create the assists, but kind of cleans house a little bit and should get some more plaudits?
Well, it's probably someone we went back to earlier. Richard Keogh, he's been player of the year a couple of times, but basically he is a bit of a scapegoat for fans at times. He actually was at fault for one of Brentford's goals at the weekend when he slipped over when Brentford played the ball through and let in their player who scored. And I think he's one of those players who fans are quick to jump on the back of when something goes wrong. But on the other hand, they don't always praise him as much as they should when things go well. So I'll probably have to say him.
Okay, no, that's good. Fair enough. Okay, well, who obviously Derby in amongst the mix of possible playoffs this season, but they've been up and down, Premier League and Championship. But who's been your favourite ever player for Derby County?
Favourite ever player? Wow, there's a question. It's funny, someone else asked us this quite recently, and my personal answer was Dean Sturridge. I don't know if you remember him.
Goal machine.
From the back days of the 1990s. Yeah, got Derby promoted in 1996. And and then went on to score, hit double figures a couple of times in the Premier League in the late 90s as well. Really quick over the ground, scored some for Derby, and was a great part of my childhood personally, so I'd have to say him.
Yep. No, I recall him, and he had like a Power One Shop back in the day, and who else did he have?
Yeah, he's a popular answer. Yeah.
Yep, they were. That's when Derby caused some problems. Okay, obviously Derby blessed with quality, but is there someone else within the league, whether it is with top of the table Norwich or maybe even bottom of the table Ipswich, that you would like to steal and pluck into the old Derby County team?
I mean, there's been some real standout performance in the league this year, hasn't there? I mean, someone like Pablo Hernandez at Leeds has been absolutely fantastic, hasn't he? Like, clearly too good for this division.
Yep.
Since going there from Swansea to Leeds, and then I think Timo Pukki for Norwich has been an absolute revelation, hasn't he? I mean, who on earth had heard of him before this season?
Right.
And now he's on 23, 24 for the season. He's been an absolute goal machine. I wonder where Daniel Farke unearthed him from. So yeah, he's been fantastic, and good old Billy Sharp as well at Sheffield United. I mean, really experienced at this level, more than 20 goals, having a season of his life. And I think if you had any one of those 3 players in your team, then we'd probably be a couple of places higher.
Yep, good choices there. Both top of respective tables, I think. Top of the assist table, top of the goal scoring table. Okay, so where do you ultimately think you will finish? Obviously, you're in the thick of things now. Possibly playoffs, maybe. Or, you could slip out of it. But where do you ultimately think you're going to finish this season?
It's such a hard question to answer because, I mean, a lot of it is factored on the run-in of the teams around us. I know that Bristol City, who are just above us in the league, have a really tough run-in. They're still going to play most of the top 6. Villa have still got to play Leeds and Norwich, I think, and they're just above us as well. But having said that, I think we're going to need 2 points. We're going to need to average 2 points a game to finish in the top 6. We're 7th at the moment, and I think we'll come up slightly short. It pains me to say it, but I think we'll finish 7th.
That's the unluckiest spot in football, that one.
It'll be heartbreaking, but I've been through this enough times before. I think that's just my hunch, unfortunately.
I got down here, team you hate and why. I know there's quite a lot of, I'm not too sure about Derby's mainstay rivalries. I know there's Forest and there's other ones, but who is the team that you actually hate? Now, obviously, the core fan base might have a different opinion, but what about you?
Well, personally for me, I mean, Forest are our local rivals. I don't really know that many Forest fans personally, so I don't have anything massively personal against them. But ever since the 2014 playoff final, I've never really had much time for QPR, unfortunately. Especially given that they robbed us in the final. They came down the next season, and a couple of years later they got fined £40 million for breaching financial fair play in the season when they beat us in the playoff final. So they beat us unjustly on and off the pitch in my mind. And I've never really had much time for them ever since, to be honest. Although I was sad to see them sack Steve McLaren the other week, but what goes around comes around.
Yep, I guess so. I didn't see that one coming. Okay, what about the final score Tuesday night? The big one, Rovers Derby. We're on a massive stinking run right now of not winning. So chances look good for you guys. What do you think?
It's not quite a must win for us, but I think after drawing at the weekend, we do need to take something from this game. So I think we will go for it. I think there will be goals. I know that you guys had a pretty decent run just before Christmas, and then you were on the verge of being in the running for being on the cusp of the top six, weren't you? But you have fallen away a bit. Yes. Christmas. But I think Ewood Park's always been a ground where we haven't always had that much joy in recent seasons. I'd like to think we can go there and get a result, but again, you've probably picked up already that I'm sort of a glass half empty sort of fan at the moment. So I'm going to say a score draw on Tuesday.
Score draw. Now, over the years, a number of players have played for both Blackburn Rovers and Derby County. Here are three of them. How about this guy? He could even feature, he could even score this Tuesday. It is Big DG Danny Graham. He's still in the books for Blackburn Rovers. But he did, look at him. He must have been 16 years old here. I think he's aged well. I think that's what we can say about that photo. He's definitely better looking now. Yeah. He did rock the old white jerseys and he did rock the old Rams on his chest. But now he is a Rover. This guy, Lee Carsley, that's right. Bit of a dynamo in midfield, crunch cat tackler. Republic of Ireland international. Lee Carsley did don the old blue and white halves. He also donned the old Ram as well on the chest. Lee Carsley. And wrapping it up, save the best till last. Leon Worst, should I say. He was, believe it or not, a Blackburn Rovers player, shockingly, and he was also a Ram. I'm not too sure if he had a good spell with Derby, because he was absolute dog poop for Blackburn Rovers. Now, if you want to check out a full list of all the players that have played for both Blackburn Rovers and Derby County, head over to my WordPress site. Details that sucker in your description below. Now, a little bit of what I would say about the match. Now, what has Cass the Cat got up her sleeve? Her prediction for Derby County against Rovers at Ewood? Here it comes. That's pretty much all I've got for you today, folks. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a good old thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, smash your subscribe button. Keep your bang out today with all things Blackburn Rovers related, championship related, world football related. We've got it all here under one roof. And while I still have you, check out the old description. Links to my other social media platforms are in there. Twitter, Facebook, it's all in there for your leisure. And while I still have you, stick your own comments down in there section down below what you think will happen this Tuesday up against Derby. Can we get back to winning ways? Will Derby get themselves into the playoffs? Lots to be determined from this game. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Let's talk too much. We've run past our allotted time. The director, the governor, is going to be peed off with the amount of time I've wasted on this video. But anyway, I'll speak to you very, very soon. In this, guys, shortly after the final whistle on Tuesday with my instant thoughts about our defeat. I can tell you now, I've got my prediction hat on. Our defeat against Derby County. We'll talk about it Tuesday. Thanks again for watching. Please like, share, and most importantly, hit the subscribe button to keep you bang up to date with all things Blackburn Rovers related, Championship related, football related. We've got it all covered right under one roof. And while I still have you, please be sure to check out some of the old videos scattered along here. I hope.